Hi everyone, welcome back to Why Change channel. Today I have an interesting topic to discuss with you, useless interview questions. Now this came up again as we discussed tough interview questions with our Be Mindset mentorship circle, and I asked the group, what are the hardest questions for you to answer? Send me some ideas. And usually behavioral questions or situational questions are listed among the hardest. You know, when they ask you, what would you do if stakeholder got really angry in the middle of the meeting? Or what do you do if your main business stakeholders disagree on an important point? Or how do you handle with a team member who doesn't want to collaborate and things like that, and they expect you to tell a story. So I have a video on that. I'll direct you to that. And those are difficult questions and there are ways to deal with them. But another question came up as one of the hardest, and that's, that traditional questions, tell me about your weaknesses. Now, sometimes you ask, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses, or what are your three strengths? But specifically, when someone asks you directly in an interview about a weakness, what do you do? So let's address it today. And I want to honestly start by saying outright here, I think it's a stupid question to ask. It will never give you what you need if you are an interviewer, because people will never answer honestly. And if you read all the articles on the internet, all the advice to people that go in for their interviews, they'll never say, oh yeah, be honest, answer with integrity. The advice usually is to pick a minor weakness and right away convert it to a strength. So when you're speaking about your supposed weakness, you're supposed to right away mention how you overcame it, how it made you a better business analyst, how it made you a better business person. And this is what I learned from it, right? So honestly, you're not getting anything useful out of it other than knowing that this person, the job candidate, actually read useful articles on the internet and is using the advice. We brainstormed some of the possible answers. Again, if you're asked as a business analyst, what are your weaknesses? So big thank you to my members of the circle who came up with all these ideas or shared what they often do. And I think those were very good ideas. Because let's face it, if you are asked this question in an interview, you have to answer it. You're not going to say, oh, come on, why are you asking this? You have to play along. You have to dance the dance. You smile and you answer, right? You have to have a good impression. So basically, both of you are playing this game. So if you ask this question as a business analyst, and of course, think about it in advance, you have to be prepared for it. You can say things like, oh, I'm too detail-oriented sometimes. I want to analyze to the minute details. I spend a lot of time writing out acceptance criteria. So I have to learn, I had to learn to be more iterative and focus on the most important requirements first, and then kind of let other requirements surface as we go along with the project. Or I had to lean more on other team members or on my three amigos to help me with this analysis, because of course teamwork makes everything better. So you can dress it up like that. You can say something like, sometimes I'm being too hard trying to deliver things on time and I end up working overtime and I feel stressed. And then as time goes by, I realize that you have to communicate to my manager or project manager when timelines are unrealistic. So I learned how to prioritize and to negotiate, and that not everything necessarily needs to be done at once, because some of those timelines actually are arbitrary. So again, you kind of start with a weakness, but in reality, you're selling it as your strengths, because now you know how to deal with priorities, negotiate, and prioritize according to your customer needs and project needs. Other examples could be, I'm impatient with other team members who are not delivering on time and I depend on them, but I learned over time that my being impatient is not really helpful. So now I try to offer help, to ask you, is there anything I can do, how I can help you? Would you like to work on this together? And all of those various ways to help your teammates and maybe collaborate more. So again, you are turning it into a strength, because you're basically selling your skills in team building and collaboration and pitching in when someone else needs help. Because of course, if someone else distributes the work, they cannot always know what's the best way to distribute it and how long things take. And sometimes things take more because the problem actually is more complicated than it looked, back then when we were planning. So we basically have to replan on the go. So the main advice still is that you need to turn that weakness into a strength and try to move on to talk about the strengths as soon as possible, so that the last impression that your interviewer has from it is of your strengths, right? Not of the weakness. So they need to be left with a positive impression. You just do it, you do it. Please don't bring up anything horrible, how you single-handedly failed the project, because of course, what will happen. Very few interviewers will actually appreciate that kind of frankness. You can scare someone away. If you're not talking to a hiring manager, if you're talking to a recruiter or HR, definitely don't say anything like that or anything very overly negative. And just look at these questions as a necessary evil. It probably isn't the best question to ask. You have to be prepared to answer. Now, if you are an interviewer, if you're planning to interview job candidates, think whether it's really worth your time to ask this question about weakness. You're not going to get a straight answer. You know that you're going to hear one of those stories like the ones I told you, because it's basically a setup, right? If you want to set up your job candidate by asking about their weaknesses, well, they're gonna shoot back at you by this prepared story where their weaknesses turned into strengths. So honestly, this is one of those traditional questions that I think we need to get rid of. And, we're all grown-ups. Move on to some more useful questions. Ask those situational questions. Ask what would you do if stakeholders had conflicting requirements, because you want to actually assess competencies of business analyst, right? Ask what if your manager you think has an unreasonable demand on your time, and how would you negotiate, getting more time to do proper analysis. Ask something where you actually have, give them a chance to be more open-ended and demonstrate those competencies better. But asking directly, what are your weaknesses, is not going to get you very far, is honestly a useless questions, and we should get rid of it. I hope it helps you to prepare for your next interview. Let me know in the comments what you think, and until next time. Oh, and if you do want to join us in one of our future conversations with the BE Mindset Circle, check out the information in the comments. We're always happy to have new members. Bye-bye.